Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a horror film that I reviewed on the House of Horror, which is a horror channel that I review for on Fridays. So if you're kind of thinking that you've seen me do this movie before, that is the reason. So if you're not familiar with the House of Horror, it is a channel that I do reviews for. There's 5 of us at the moment, I think, who do reviews on certain days. So my day is on Friday. So if you want to check out the channel, I'll leave a link in the description bar below. But I thought for those of you who aren't familiar with the House of Horror, I'm going to do a review on it on my channel. Now, I've rewatched it. You know, my review on the House of Horror was a very long time ago. So I rewatched it and I thought, with a fresh sort of approach, I'm going to do another review for all of you who haven't seen it. So the movie is a very low-budget Australian horror film, released in the year 2008. It's spoken in the English language, directed by Sam Barrett, and this film is called No Through Road. And the story to No Through Road is as follows. The serenity of yet another quiet evening alone is shattered for amateur photographer Richard. Frightened, desperate, and uninvited, Samantha has taken refuge in Richard's sprawling suburban home. Is there substance to her fear and paranoia, or is substance the cause? Is her arrival a break-in or an escape? As she seeks salvation from savage retribution, Richard has no other choice and is forced to fight for Samantha's battle, and in order to save his home, his life, and his sense of humanity. Only dawn will reveal the blood-soaked fallout of being alone in the middle of suburbia. So the movie is set with Richard. He's a very unlikable character. He's very selfish, very quiet, and he tends to, like being alone. So one evening, it's kind of a routine. He likes to relax listening to classical music. But this evening is not going to be anything like he's ever experienced, because there is a girl named Samantha. Now Samantha has broken into the house, and initially Richard thinks that Samantha is a burglar, so he's going to ring the police. But Samantha is desperate that he doesn't ring the police and that he lets her stay in his house at least for a while. So Richard is constantly asking why should I let you do this? Why shouldn't I call the police? And she's not really giving any straight out answers, so he's got a lot of suspicion. The suspicion is further intensified when a little bit later 3 men turn up inside a car that pull up on Richard's driveway. Now they get out of the car, Richard goes outside to see what they want, and what they want is the girl inside. They want to talk to her. So Richard, he sees how terrified Samantha is, so obviously whatever Samantha is running away from is connected to these 3 men. Now these 3 men are not going to leave until they get what they want. And so Richard doesn't know what to do. He's going to hand over Samantha, but Samantha is just so desperate that he is reluctant to do so. So he's trying to talk it through with these guys, but the guys are saying, no, we're going to talk to her, and there's nothing you can do about it. We'll wait here all night if we have to. So Richard really does have a dilemma on his hands. He rings his friend, who is an ex-police officer, just to scare them a little bit and hopefully, scare them off. But things go very pear-shaped. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but basically, after the event with the police officer, there is no going back. And these 3 men, they are on the verge of breaking into the house to get what they want, and their patience with Richard is running very thin. So it turns out to be a terrifying fight for survival for Richard and Samantha as they're trying to hold off the home invasion of these 3 individuals. So that's all I'm going to give you on the synopsis. If you want to know more, please go out there and check this movie out for yourself. Now, my thoughts on the film. I'd never heard of this one, which is a great surprise because, I'm such a patriotic Australian. I look to support my film industry whenever possible, especially a horror film. So when I saw this on the shelf, I just thought it was a low-budget American film. But when I saw that it was Australian, I was really gobsmacked because this movie has not got any marketing whatsoever. So 99% of the population, not only in Australia but worldwide, will not know that this film existed. So it was a blind buy. But because I'd never seen it around before, I thought, this might be the only opportunity I'll get to see it. So I bought it and I watched it. And I can say that I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised. Now, on IMDb, it only gives it 3.8 out of 10, which is greatly underrating the film. I thought it was so much better than that. I can see some people not liking it because it's a very low-budget film, but I thought that the positives do outweigh the negatives. Now, it's not a perfect film. There are negatives, but the positives were really, surprising. And that's why I thought the movie is definitely worth the effort to sit through. Now, the biggest positive for the film is that the director is a fan of the genre, and he pays homage to classics like Assault on Precinct 13 and, more commonly, Straw Dogs. I think that has the strongest resemblance to Straw Dogs because it's the same kind of home invasion film in that they're seeking refuge and they're trying to fight off the invading people. So if you like Straw Dogs, you'll get something out of this one, because I feel that it's kind of like a low-budget Australian version of that film. A lot of the movie is not explained, so you don't know why the men have turned up, you don't know why they want the woman, and you don't know whether or not the woman is bad herself. So majority of the film, before it's all revealed, is a lot of suspense, because you don't know who to believe. You kind of feel that there's a lot of paranoia going through the air, and you don't know what these villains are capable of, whether or not they're going to get vicious, or whether or not they'll just leave. So there is a lot of build-up psychologically, and I thought that, I was expecting a gore fest, because it says high-impact violence, so I was expecting a gore fest straight from the start, but there is an impressive build-up, which I really, really liked, and which gave the film a lot of depth and respect from me. It is a movie about being courageous, about cowards, so there's a little bit more to it in that way as well. The violence is very hard-hitting. It's not the most graphic film. There is some graphic violence, but as far as gorehounds are concerned, you'll see films that are much worse, but the violence is typical Australian fashion. Very hard-hitting and very realistic, and there's not too much of it, so the director didn't get carried away with that, which kept the realism throughout the entire length. So violence will appeal to a lot of gorehounds, but just be very careful, because the build-up, there is a little bit of build-up before you see blood and guts, but I can tell you that the build-up is worth it, because it just makes the revelation even more frightening. The soundtrack was a little bit hit and miss. I thought in some parts it was alright, in other parts it was a little bit silly, but I thought that the director used it sparingly. He didn't overdo it, and that's what I liked. Another thing I liked about the film, nothing was overdone. There was no excess in anything, and I thought that, it kept true to its low budget. It feels like a low budget film, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. Unfortunately, there are negatives. Now, the negatives are that it is low budget. Obviously, it's going to come with some bad acting. And yes, there is some bad acting going around. So I thought that the character of Samantha was really badly done, and I thought Richard was very unlikable. Although he wasn't horrible in his performance, the actor, I thought that, the director could have made Richard a little bit more likable. But I do feel that he was important to the story, because, as I said, it is a film about cowardice, and bravery. So he does have an important part, but I just felt that he wasn't a very likable fella. The villains were very good. I thought the villain acting performances were very well done. They weren't over the top. They weren't creatures. They were just everyday Australians who had a temper problem, but they did stay in the realms of reality. The ending was very good. I really liked the ending. I thought, it went down a different path. I thought at one stage it was going to go a typical stereotype Hollywood ending, but it actually surprised me. It steers clear of that, so, that was very good as well. But, the best part of the film is the build-up, the suspense, the psychology behind the possibility of having a break-in and what you're going to do. So it does pay homage to classics like Straw Dogs, and even Zulu, which is a film about, British soldiers fending off the Zulu invasion when they were greatly outnumbered. So, yeah, it's basically two people fighting against the odds in order to survive the ordeal. So if you like films like Straw Dogs, Assault on Precinct 13, this is definitely one to check out, because although it's not great, although it is a very low budget movie, it provides something that was really rewarding. So I'm giving this 3 stars. I know that next to no one will have heard of this film, so please go out there and support Australian films, because this one definitely deserves a bit more credit than it actually gets. So 3 stars, not the best movie, but certainly not as bad as a lot of IMDb would suggest. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later. Bye.